Hello again, and let's move on. So that was a kind of presentation of slightly more complicated ROMI formula, and I would like to show you now a more simplified version of it. So you can see ROMI, and on the top you can see that this is the difference between incremental value produced by a campaign. So what would have happened if you were to invest into marketing and deduct marketing cost of running the actual campaign. And then you deduct by the marketing cost of running the campaign. So these are exactly the same, the last two elements. So as you can see, a necessary step in calculating return on marketing investment is the estimation of incremental value produced by a campaign, or in other words, incremental sales that would be attributable to marketing. So let's try and work out them. Okay, so here I'd like to show you a kind of a small exercise. How can we do some calculations? So here the focus is short-term return on marketing investment, where we're measuring the pounds of revenue for every pound of marketing investment. So what we are trying to say, we're trying to say how much £1 invested into marketing gives us in return. So example, if a company spends £100,000 on a direct mail and it delivers £300,000 in incremental revenue, what is the return on marketing investment? So let's have a look then. It's very simple calculations, but let's take Excel file and do the actual calculations. So based on the formula, what we're going to do, we will do 300,000 minus 100,000, and we will divide this by 100,000. And this is what we get. Percentage will be. Okay, so you can see on the top what we did. We put, as the formula told us before, incremental value produced by a campaign. So incremental value produced by a campaign was 300,000. And we have to minus what we invested into marketing, which was 100,000, and we divided by the same £100,000. So the answer, what is return on marketing investment, is 200%. Now, the next question was, so what does it mean? Every pound expended in direct mail translates an additional how much on the company's bottom line? So £1 translates to actually £2. So it was 200%, so it translates to £2. So that's very simple calculation. Now, the longer term return on marketing investment, it's sort of similar in terms of methodology, how you calculate. So short-term and long-term ROMI will be similar, and it's used to determine other less tangible aspects of marketing effectiveness, such as brand awareness, purchase intention, and so on. So you may even think that some of them might be actual non-financial measures, but this is kind of a little bit more complicated because you can also group them as a part of return on marketing investment, just kind of a long-term focus. And also, long-term return on marketing investment models will often draw on consumer lifetime value models. Okay, so let's go then here and do one more exercise. So, exercise, measure return on marketing investment. Say a company invested £300,000 in marketing and it delivered £2,250,000 in sales. Marketing contributed 20% to the sales. What is the return on marketing per one invested pound? So in this exercise, it's kind of quite easy for you to calculate because it told you what marketing contribution was. Again, if you go back to the formula, return on marketing investment, where it says ROMI formula simplified, you will remember that first of all, we start with incremental value produced by a campaign. So in this particular case, if we take an Excel spreadsheet again, what would we do? We would simply do this. 2,250,000, right, pounds, times 20%, because that's how much marketing contribution was. So let's not worry right this very moment about how these 20% were estimated, but for the purposes of simplicity. So this was marketing contribution. It means that 80% of the sales were not attributable to marketing. So in other words, if you would have not done any marketing activities, you would have got 80% of those 2.25 million. So marketing's pie contribution here is 80%. And now we need to deduct the cost of marketing, which was £300,000, and we divide this by £300,000. Okay, so let me check now. 2.2 million. I think I put too many zeros here. Yeah. Okay, excellent. So £2,250,000 times 20%, and this gives return contributable to marketing, minus 300,000 marketing cost, and all that is divided by 300,000. And what we got? We got 50%. So we can see that return on marketing investment, the answer here is 50%. And £1 translated into £1.5, because your return is 50%, so you got 50% on top, and when you invest £1 and you get 50% on top is 1.5. So hopefully this clarifies the situation. And the difficult thing here is really to understand, but how do you assess the marketing contribution, what the marketing contribution is? In this exercise, it was relatively easy to do so because the number was given, but in reality is very difficult. So let's see, how can we separate base sales without marketing versus incremental sales with marketing? So base sales would be volume that would be generated in absence of marketing. So think about how much would you make in sales or revenue or turnover if you wouldn't run any marketing activities at all. So this is the natural demand of product driven by external factors such as competitive actions, seasonality, economic conditions, customer characteristics, and whatever it is. In terms of incremental sales, this is the component of sales that would be driven by marketing. So there is increment, contribution. Some have short-term returns, such as sales promotion, and others would have longer-term returns, such as TV and press. So we need to be able to distinguish between those two, base sales versus incremental sales. In reality, it's very difficult. Okay, so now let's look into how we calculate marketing costs. Here is another exercise. You are a brand manager tasked with developing an advertising campaign for Waitrose in the run-up for Christmas. You had plenty of discussions with colleagues within marketing departments, line manager, manager above him, and even CMO and CEO of the organization. The estimated cost of creating a video is 3.5 million. So £3,500,000. The cost of advertising on Sky News is 5 million in total. However, you sort of managed to get a discount of 10% of the production of video because of your long-standing relationship with the advertising agency. You also discussed the campaign and received an approval to go ahead from other departments, including product development, PR, finance, and so on. So the question here is, what are the total costs of the marketing activity? So here you might say it's relatively easy to actually calculate those. So you can see that you managed to get 10% discount of the production of the cost. So 3.5 million minus 10%, it would be 315,000 pounds. So 3.5 million minus 315,000 pounds would give you 3 million and let's just do calculations on the Excel spreadsheet. That might be a little bit easier. So you had 3.5 million and you paid 90% of this. So that's how much you paid. Here we need to change to a normal number rather than percentage. Okay, and plus you paid 5 million. Okay, so your total costs were 8,150,000 pounds, right? Because you got 10% discount from the video production only, from 3.5 million, and you've added 5 million for advertising cost kindness. By the way, they say if you don't have a couple of million pounds to advertise, don't even go on a TV. So what this exercise demonstrates is that when calculating direct marketing cost is relatively easy. What are the challenges in calculating the marketing cost? Usually the direct costs are easy to identify, just as we found. However, it is rather difficult to determine the cost of labor. So if you look into the exercise before, how do you know how much actually time your brand manager responsible for this advertising campaign for Waitrose spent in talking to other people? There is also his manager involved, a manager above him, CMO, CEO, and so on. So on one hand, when we look into marketing's contribution, we kind of can say that it's enough to calculate direct costs. However, when the companies think in general about the value that marketeers produce, it's kind of you should kind of really look into the bigger picture and try to understand, so how much would that involve if we would look into the labor costs as well? Because remember, a lot of the times companies work with other agencies, they have established relationships, and a lot of the jobs are done by them. So and obviously when you pay agencies, this would include labor costs and non-labor costs attributable directly to marketing. So in some of the cases, as this one with the exercise, it demonstrates that manager had a lot of interaction with other people, and a lot of other people spent their time on actually doing that. So think about it, if the manager had a campaign, brand manager in Waitrose had to do this campaign for Christmas, probably he or she must have spent like easily 20, 30, or maybe even 50% of the total annual time just to do that, and other people contributed as well. So calculation of indirect costs is rather difficult. And when the question comes to the total or general contribution by marketing, you kind of want to be able to see the bigger picture, not only direct costs, but all of the costs. Couple of words about marketing accountability. So the first one, is it required for companies to disclose marketing costs, items such as marketing, advertising, promotion in their annual financial report? So I was thinking that you might actually wonder whether there is any requirement to do that. So under International Financial Reporting Standards and UK GAAP, there are no requirements for companies to disclose marketing costs in their financial statements. And as I mentioned previously with Apple, companies can disclose this cost voluntarily, and if they do, they can decide which specific costs to include. The only requirement is that they are consistent from year to year. In addition, there should be a requirement for the accruals concept and accrue for any cost incurred but not invoiced yet.